Okay. All right. So, one of the things we're going to discuss. Okay. Well, let's back up for a second. Um, First of all, this video, um, even though it will be educational, this video will be used to test my drawing pad and cover some things here. Actually, I need to go back to my take the screen. Yeah, there it goes. Okay. All right, and here we are up here. Okay, so cool thing about this is um, the screen maker. This is a Microsoft product, man. Where you just go to the Microsoft store and download. I don't know why it took me weeks to find it, but it does exactly what I wanted to do. Something very simple. Okay, so let's go to our pencil. Let's change this color here to black. Okay, and bear with me because I am getting used to this, and it's kind of slow, but it does do the full screen. All right, so what we learned was, ooh, that's big. All right, so let's change this to small. Okay, all right. What we learned, there we go. It's spanning tree. All right. Oops, I hate those buttons. I gotta. All right, so screw it. All right, spanning tree with a weird dash here. Okay. All right, spanning tree. We've learned the concept of when we have multiple switches. Okay. For those who don't know this, how I draw my switches. Okay. And once we actually have a loop. Okay. In a possibility of data coming out of one switch and end up coming into another switch. Okay, whether it's the same port or a different port, who knows? I don't see how you're gonna do it on the same port. I don't care. All right, now, okay, once we have created this loop, okay, in the background, spanning tree is a protocol that is going to recognize this loop. All right, okay, with BPDUs, right, going out, and it's going to automatically eliminate those loops by blocking one of the ports. Okay, now when I say ports, like this port here, we're going to block that. That is going to eliminate the possibility of loops. Okay, because there is no time to live with a frame or packet, whatever you want to call them. Okay, layer 2, you're supposed to call them frames. Router layer or layer 3, you're supposed to call them packets. I just use them interchangeably, which most instructors do, or most engineers do, and some don't. Okay, everybody is different, and from that concept throughout your career, okay, all right. My job is to educate you about the basics of the technology. Okay, all right. Eventually, we're going to get to some deeper dives in some of the technology, depend on, what I choose to talk about. But in the beginning, okay, the basics is a minimum 70 hours of instructional content. Okay, as I teach it, it's 70 hours. Okay, so and that's the point. You're not even in the professional level technology yet. That means you got a crap load more to learn after those 70 hours. Okay, all right. Now, okay, 70 hours is a baseline. Okay, so it doesn't. It can be 80, it can be 90. Who knows? All right, it all depends on the instructor. Okay. Now, what I do want to say is the time to live is a layer 3 technology. All right. As you can see, I really need to get back on my skill set with this damn pad. All right. It's a layer 3 technology, okay? That means layer 2 has no means of doing this. That's why we have to block the links. Because having data go around and around and around and being copied and copied, okay, we have a high potential of creating broadcast storms, okay? All right. First of all, I guess that's a return, okay. And where's my undo? Undo. Okay. There we go. All right. So now, wow. Okay. And I guess we don't have a redo. So oh well. All right. So yeah, we're going to remember this video is for me to test out this thing and see how it is, but also talk about some stuff. Okay. So now, here's the thing. Okay. All right. This is what I love about IT. Okay. 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 Guys, you're going to hear this term all the time. I mean, just a few weeks ago, I was told that EX or VMware is dead. Okay, guys, look here. Okay, IT is the concept of technology that you choose to use. Okay, all right. Unless there is a security concern where you cannot get any more software updates for a particular product. Okay, so that's why you need to go to a new product. All right, without those concerns, guys, you can have legacy systems out there for millennium. Okay, all right, that means your concept of technology does not define the reality. Okay, all right. So you want to eliminate the listening and learning stages, okay? Because you can have up to 50 seconds or so for a convergence of spanning tree, depending on what's going on. All right. So you feel that is a no nonsense or zero tolerance for your network, and that's okay. It's your network. Okay, so you take layer 3 all the way down, okay, to the access switches. That's your choice because the convergence of EIGRP is so much faster than spanning tree. That's fine. But just because you made this technology and just because your company decided to go this way and you have been working at this company for 5 years does not in any way, shape, or form, okay, dictate the technology of the world. All right? That means you leave, okay, and you go back to a new company and they got layer 2 all the way down for a reason. They have decided not to take layer 3. And now you're in this fight with these people, okay, and eventually you're going to get fired because you're not adapting to their environment. Okay, and that's exactly why being a contractor or consultant, is extremely powerful. Okay, because there's no way I could have the skill set that I have now without those that means of adapting to all these different networks. Okay, I wouldn't change a damn thing at all. All right, I've seen tons of networks. Okay. All right, and I don't have one opinion of another, whether it's built wrong or not. All right, I just know this is the layout. I'm not trying to come in here and redesign the entire network. Okay, do you have any idea? Just a network refresh that's already been designed and planned. How much time that takes? Okay, all right. I know because I've done tons of network refreshes. Okay, and I'm talking about large networks. Okay, all right. Way beyond enterprise size levels. So, in those concepts, okay, you don't want to change. Okay, you just want to learn the network and adapt to that network from that concept, from my concept. I'm not saying that that's going to be the way you roll. Okay, all right, but mainframes are still used today, guys. Okay, so when you walk into an environment and you're sitting in the conference call, and I don't understand why we have mainframes, guys. Mainframes are dead. Okay, you're talking about their infrastructure. All right, okay. Regardless if it's an install or not, okay. Obviously, you're not willing to adapt and interact with our mainframes and fix our problems. We're not changing. All right, and the thing is, here's the reality: it isn't your network to change. It's theirs. Okay, whether they understand the I don't know what the hell I was trying to say there. Whether they understand the byproduct of what they have on hand, it doesn't matter. They bought it. They paid somebody to design it. Okay, their infrastructure is their infrastructure. It's not yours. All right. So you have. Okay, look. I know. I know I'm very, very aggressive with some of the things that I explain, but in reality, if you do not have a means of being able to adapt, live in chaos sometimes, and deal with the problems as they occur, okay, that is the non-technical aspect of our job, okay, all right. And irate customers or irate coworkers, however you see them, okay. The bottom line is they are your customers, whether they're coworkers or not, okay. All right, meaning that the company you're working for does not have customers that you need to interact with. You're dealing with people who work in that industry, at that company, okay. Those are your customers, okay. They're coworkers. All right, but if you treat those coworkers like well, who are you? Just a coworker? I mean, guys, why are you in IT in the first place? You have to ask yourself that question, okay? Because you're obviously in IT for the wrong reason, which is providing support, okay? All right, that is your job. That's why you get paid the money that you get. That's why you have a job. That's why you have the position, okay? That's why you're getting certified. Okay? Yeah, to be that person that understands the technology and to be able to use that technology, but at the same time to support. Without people to interact with, you have no purpose. Okay? So I know I'm very aggressive with a lot of things because your career is a very serious path. And I want you to take it seriously. So that's where that aggression and that, no tolerance attitude comes from, right? Because this is serious. All right, I got 15 years in the making, maybe even 16. I'm not doing the math right now, but at the same time, okay, the way I was at year 1 and years 15, it's completely different, okay? Because of my ability to want to adapt. Okay, you can have the power to adapt, but if you don't want to, you're not going to do it. All right, meaning that you're going to be deemed as someone who cannot adapt, which in reality you ignore that statement as well. Okay, because you can adapt, but you're refusing to adapt because you feel you don't have to, or for whatever reason. That's not the background or backbone of IT. It's the complete opposite. Okay? All right? You're still going to run across people who have this attitude. Hey, it's not your career, it's theirs. Okay? All right? Spending energy and time bitching and complaining about somebody else when you got your own work to do is just convoluted nonsense. Okay? All right? So, George did not show up for work 3 times this week. Why do you know that? Why are you noticing that? You got your own stuff to do, okay? I don't care if George hasn't been in all week. I got my own stuff to do. I don't have time to worry about George, okay? George's workload has no aspect of my workload. However, you created that drama of worrying about somebody else's drama, okay? For some reason, your insecurities is making it like, oh, well, he gets to do that. Why can't I? What? Are you there to work and solve problems, or are you there to take off? All right, you have to set your priorities. So this concept that things are dead, okay, all right, that is usually coming from someone who does not understand IT in a whole. And it's okay, especially when someone is still um, in the field, okay, or just getting into the field. It is not okay for someone being in the field for 20 years and still has this mentality. That's all I'm saying. That's opinion, okay? You might disagree, and I'm okay with that. All right? All right? Disagreeing with me is a sense of debate and a sense of conversation. And I love them, okay? But at the same time, some people don't. Some people feel that once you disagree with them, you're their enemy, okay? And be honest, you know, I got better fish to fry, however you say that, okay? Now, so take this concept with a grain of salt, all right? And understand that there are things out there. Now, okay, let's take a look at, let's go ahead and delete this. Boop. All right, so let's take a look at this. Okay, here's Earth. Up in Earth is a nice little, okay, satellite. I don't know what that was. Hold on for a second. My pen slipped. All right, so let's try doing it this way. Okay, so here's Earth. Okay, now somewhere on Earth, let's say this piece of land here. Okay, there is a router. Okay, now that router is connected to a let's go here. Whoop, okay, to a satellite dish. Okay, all right, and then that. Boop, 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 boop. All right, that transmits with the satellite. Now, okay, this has been deployed into space. Okay, and the only protocol that it communicates with, based on legacy and based on time of engineered and designed, okay, it only runs RIP. But luckily, it learns RIP version 2, so that's good, right? Now, you don't know anything about RIP, okay? Why? Because you have been told RIP is dead, and you will never see it out there in the industry. But yet, you get hired, and you are an expert in the field, and the one thing you should learn as a route/switch expert is all the routing protocols. Now, I say that, but I am still today guilty of not knowing IS. Okay? Now, I have understood the basics, but I would have to relearn IS if I ever gone into a position, and I would learn that technology very fast to be able to adapt to their environment. All right. However, as a route and switch expert, I really should know this protocol. Okay, I really should. It's just one of those protocols that I've never had to use in my career, so I never really took time to master or get really good with this protocol because I'm not using it. Okay, all right. Just like data center. Okay. All right. Hey, one of my projects was for the hospital. All right, and we're not talking about one hospital. We're talking about 6 or 7 hospitals in the entire state. Okay, and not even in the entire state, just really like the northern state of that state. Okay, and I was able to adapt very fast. Okay, but I'm not a data center expert. Meaning that if I actually went to work in a data center foundation environment, which I have been in there before, okay, on some of my contracts. All right, that's why I'm able to adapt really fast because there is experience there. Okay, all right. If I was hired as a data center engineer, yes, I would take that position. Yes, I would excel at it, and yes, I would have to go back to training and learning that technology that is used in the data center, okay, with a vengeance, okay? But that's me adapting, okay? It doesn't mean I'm going to succeed. It doesn't mean I'm not going to make mistakes, because I am, okay? I don't know what I don't know, and things are going to kick my ass, all right? How I handle that ass kicking, okay, is a different story, all right? Now, I have literally seen this before. And I was able, okay, to increase their time of convergence when a route was not learned, meaning that with RIP, because of the way it works, its update is sent out every 30 seconds by default, okay, and all the RIP configurations on this satellite to this router, okay, was the default. So changing the timers, changing the flushing of the tables, okay, I increased their network convergence and optimization like a mofo, all right, because I knew that routing protocol, okay. Technology today, our teachings today, they're going to tell you RIP is dead. I don't know what I just did, but let's go ahead and undo that. Undo. Okay. So, I'm not saying, okay, that you're going to run into RIP. I was shocked when that happened anyway. But luckily, okay, throughout the time frame of my CCIE, RIP was a protocol that I needed to master. Okay, and I liked RIP. I had no problems with it, and I watched someone do a RIP demonstration. Okay, and it was so basic because during his studies, this guy, in his mind, why learn RIP? Because, whatever. Well, why learn RIP? Because it's a routing protocol, and you're supposed to be a route and switch guy. Okay, now then again, all right, I have this concept with ISIS, all right? So I can't tell you that I looked at this as a bad choice because I did the same thing with ISIS, okay? But at the same time, okay, all right, because of that skill set, I was able to do this, all right? This has also happened with me with port security, all right? Something doesn't go down. They can't figure it out. They send technicians out. They can't figure it out. And this is a port security issue. Blocking the port because of MAC addresses. Okay? The more you know, the more you can manipulate, the more powerful you are. Okay? So, now, let's take a look at another scenario. I had whatever it's called, Ubuntu, whatever, wireless network. Okay, I call it the eye of the house because it's kind of like that. And I think it even has like this little border around here, right? That actually glows. Okay, it's been a while since I've had one. However, okay, back in the day, okay, we've all done it, was stealing other people's wireless network to get on the internet before Verizon showed up in your house when you moved into your new apartment. We've all done it, okay? All right, there's always going to be someone that is not putting a password on their wireless router, even though today that's impossible because Verizon decided and ISPs decided that we're going to give you routers that have to be password protected, and it's not a bad thing, okay? I'm not going to say it is. Get your own stuff, all right? But I was not having that, okay? And what I didn't notice was people coming into my network. So even password protecting it, I was not good enough. I was not happy enough. So okay, literally took a hard cable and plugged into my Cisco switch, okay, and put port security and MAC address sticky, okay, and okay, At the time, I was living with the wife and daughter and myself. Okay, so they had their wireless phones, their wireless computers, or wireless adapters on their computers. Okay, so on and so on. So I literally went into every device and recorded those MAC addresses. Okay, let the sticky command bring them in. But then, let's say I got 6 MAC addresses on this port being learned. Now I'm going to put port security maximum 6. That means nobody, even if they found out my username and password, that traffic will get through this wireless access point to here and stopped. Because the MAC address is not in the configuration. Okay? Alright? This was simple to me because I understood port security. Now, let's talk about something else. Alright? Now, okay, so we're going to say router 1, router 2, router 3, router 4. Okay, now, these are sites, and they are connected, okay, alright, I'm even going to put a serial link here, like a T1 line, alright, and, okay, now, not that your T1 like cannot be an Ethernet link. I'm just saying, I don't know why I said it that way, but still, it doesn't matter. Okay, now, we have links. Okay, now, at this point, regardless of what's on our land, the moment this traffic leaves this interface here, this interface is connected to the World Wide Web. The ISP, whoever there is, okay, we're going to say Comcast for this example. All right. Now, as the data leaves here, it is up for grabs. You have no idea. That's why we draw the cloud. We have no idea what type of protection, what type of security, as there could be hundreds of routers, okay, interconnected in all types of ways, okay. Yeah, this is a very sloppy diagram, but at the same time, is that a eraser? Yes. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of tapping my feet with an OCD thing going on. If you can hear that, I'm sorry. All right, so depending on how these are connected, okay, there are multiple paths it could take. We don't know what's going on. Okay, we don't even know if their routing protocols are even password protected. We have no clue. It's not our network. Okay, and you also gotta understand. Okay, these could be different ISPs that we're interconnecting with. Okay, all right. Poor, very sloppy diagram, but you get the idea. Now, that's a problem for me because any one of these ISPs could be using poor measurements. And if you think an ISP does not use poor measurements, okay, all right, there are ISPs that forget to block private IP addresses. Next thing you know, you're routing 172 and 192 addresses all throughout the internet. All right, creating sloppy routing. All right, guys, we're human. Mistakes are happening. It could be a poor maintenance, but it doesn't mean it's like this horrible thing where they're the devil. Okay, it's just something that was not caught until it was caught. Now, how can I use this cloud as a means, okay, of having my data protected by my own interaction and not relying on somebody else like the ISP? Okay, and that, my friend, which we haven't learned yet, but we'll get there, okay, that would be tunnel interfaces. Okay, now I could actually set up an internal interface is nothing but a virtual interface. Okay, now I could set up this as my headquarters. Okay, and now I have virtual interfaces going to each one of my sites, and then the cool thing about it is I can encrypt. Okay, all right, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out how to spell encrypt, but nonetheless, okay. Um, I can encrypt them, and the cool thing about it is I can have a routing protocol, okay, to bring all the routes for each one of my sites back to the headquarters. Okay. Now, if I wanted to have the ability to have router site 4, which would be router 4, talking to site 2, okay, without having to go through the headquarters, I could create another tunnel there. Okay. All right, and then have them literally communicate directly. Otherwise, router 1 will, or site 1 or headquarters, will hold all the routes for the sites, and I'll always have to transit the headquarters to get to it. Now, why would I choose that method? It's an ease of design. Okay? Either that, I will have to maintain all these interfaces on each site. Maybe I don't want to have 4 interfaces or going off, or 3 interfaces going off of each site. Okay? Because then, like for site 4, to have full convergence or full capability, I gotta have a tunnel here and a tunnel here, which is already there. Okay, so mainly 1, 2, 3 for each one of my sites, and that's okay too. All right, because now everyone can actually have a single hop going to each one if latency and congestion is part of my concern. Because obviously, okay, this link here, I might have virtual interfaces going out, but that traffic cannot be virtual without having a physical connection. Meaning that for all 3 of these tunnels, this interface, physical interface, right, is the interface that is taking the load of all that traffic going out these virtual interfaces. All right, so that might have to be upgraded in order to handle that traffic. All right, but think about it. In your routing table here, okay, I have site 1, okay, which is going to be my local interfaces, right? All right, or I mean, who knows? I mean, I might have routers over here, okay, meaning that all these routes that router 1 knows about itself, which is headquarters, site 1, okay, is now going to be shared over to site 2, 3, and 4 via the routing protocol. Okay. Now, what have I done? What have I done when I do this? Okay. I've created virtual interfaces to each one of my devices or sites, encrypted, meaning that nobody on the internet can read it. So I don't have to worry about the ISP and what they do, because technically what I've done was create my own internet over the internet. Think about that. Okay? Alright? So, now, is this possible at home? Of course it is. Okay? You got your Fios router. Okay? And you have your Cisco router. And here to here, this is actually connected to the internet. Okay, and over here you have a, let's say, Comcast. All right, and it has a Cisco router here as well. Okay, now you go on each one of these devices, the Files router and the Comcast router, and you enable DMZ interface. Okay, and what a DMZ interface does is, check this out. Okay. You're going to say the DMZ is going to 192.168.1.1, which is this interface IP address. Okay? All right? Assuming that, maybe the Fios' IP address is 192.168.0.1. Okay? All right, now, you're going to say for the DMZ, and what the DMZ really says, from these ISP router/switch software that they give you as a customer. Okay, they're not all right. They're not managed switches and routers. That's what the Cisco router is. and the Cisco switches. Okay, these are already configured and designed by software to do the things that you do, where you just plug the device in, okay, and it's DHCP is already set up. All that stuff is done. You don't do nothing. Just plug it in. All right. Now, from that perspective, when you enable DMZ, okay, on these devices, okay, that you're getting from the ISP, what that says is any traffic that is originating outside, meaning that your IP address, okay, which is not the LAN, which is going to be the WAN, which could be like 65.1.1.1, any traffic that is sourced from the outside of your network and comes ingress on the WAN interface, bypass the firewall, the software, and automatically send that traffic over to here. Okay? Now, that's cool. Because now, on this particular router, okay, you can set up a firewall if you want to. You can set up NAT. You can do everything you want. And now, you have a direct connection from the outside to the inside. Meaning, you're going to do the same thing here. And now, okay, you can create a tunnel from here over to here. And this is going to work because any traffic coming in to create the tunnel, okay, is going to be bypassed and come directly to this interface. All right? And now you got a tunnel between this router and this router, okay, through your Fios and Comcast router, and you can actually have your routing protocol, which, you know, routing protocol, yeah, I know my spelling is horrible in my writing. And now you will automatically share routes back and forth, okay, through your Cisco routers, and the Fios and Comcast is not even a factor. All right? Now, without understanding how these Fios and Comcast routers work, and lack of knowledge of what DMZ really means with these particular technologies, as far as the ISP is concerned, as far as how the software utilizes the DMZ being enabled, you would never be able to do this. You will believe that this will be impossible. Okay? Now, check this out. It doesn't have to be a physical router. I can actually plug this thing in. Hold on for a second. Okay, eraser. Okay. And this is connected directly in to my PC. And in that PC, I am using an emulator called GNS3. Okay? And whatever router I have configured on here, all right, in GNS3, which will be software, right? It is bridged to this network card on my PC, and now, okay, my DMZ is set to the IP address of this PC, and now I have from GNS3 to GNS3 router learning routes. Meaning that whatever routes that I create from GNS3, okay, is going to be sent over here from this router as a tunnel over to here with the routing protocol, and I've now just created my own lab to lab environment. Okay, meaning that you want to practice this. Okay, all right. Here we're not even going to use a Comcast router. Okay, we're going to use Azure, whatever, Microsoft Azure. Create a server, okay, and install GNS3 on that server, okay, and use that as a way of learning how to have routing protocols uh, uh, configured from site to site. Okay? All right? If you want to do it that way. The point is, knowledge is power. And without that knowledge, you can't have the ability to manipulate things that you want to manipulate. Okay? And like a scientist, okay? Because I always say I'm a scientist at heart. All right? Okay. As a scientist, the concept is to observe, to document, to learn, and do not do the same thing expecting different results. Okay? It's just not going to work. All right? That's the whole concept of being a scientist at heart, is adding sodium to your experiment and see what happens. Maybe nothing. Okay? Well, don't use sodium because it does no effect on it. All right? Let's try mercury. All right? Let's try magnesium. Let's try arsenic. All right? Let's go through every element on a periodic table, okay, and try to figure out how to get our plutonium to try that as well. All right? Regardless, that's the concept. The more you know, the more you can manipulate. And that's what we want to do. We want to manipulate things to our advantage or to the point of getting the results we want to get. Now, oh my God, I have one more thing that, oh, okay, so now. Okay, so now you have two servers sitting here on site 2. Okay? Now, in that server, okay, you have VMware. Okay? Giving you the power to create as many PCs and servers that your resources are allowed. Hell, that could be 1,000 servers. Okay, all right, spread it across your 2 servers. All right, or 1,000 PCs. It doesn't really matter. Okay, you have resources. Okay, now, okay. These are your customers. And your customers, okay, connect to your site, your headquarters, okay? And when they need resources, they are now routed out to here to get those resources, okay? So, why not, if you're capable of doing so, creating BGP, okay, a protocol that people can't really perceive past the ISP for using it until they do. And once they really fully understand BGP, they can actually run BGP internally, okay, on their infrastructure to move data to the resources that they need to move them to. You don't normally see this unless you work in an organization that really truly understands the power of BGP. What is the purpose of learning BGP to that level if you are incapable of utilizing it in your infrastructure? Right? But you normally won't see this because someone had told you in your mind, okay? Or I should say it's stuck in your mind. Someone has told you that BGP is not a routing protocol, okay, that you should use in your infrastructure, okay, unless you're an ISP. And you believe this to the point that if an engineer that really understood BGP and would try to get your organization to move over to BGP as a routing protocol default for that organization, you as the engineer are going to heavily block it and talk to the VIPs and tell them why that is such a bad idea. Which your argument for that bad idea might have won the argument, but wow, you have hindered that company going to the next level by using BGP as that routing call. And one of the cool things about it is, okay, let's say, okay, this customer has a router 1 here, okay, and he has one over here. And with BGP, for this same customer, okay, you can actually set up VPNs, okay, with BGP, okay, and have customer 1 and 2's routes being forwarded from these servers that you have resources on, okay? Let's say this is network 10 and this is network 12 from your perspective, but these network IP address schemes can actually be sent via BGP as a route, and it gets injected into their routing table, and now they have direct communication with the resources that you provide. Otherwise, you would have to configure on this interface NAT translations or create VPN services for them to actually VPN directly into your network, manipulate the routing table to get the access to the routes that they need, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, guys. Blah, 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 blah. Oh my god, how do I get rid of the pin? Like that. Okay, so this is my point. I've only seen BGP used in this manner in 2 contracts, okay, that I've been on. Alright? So now, last thing we're going to talk about. In my field, okay, I've come across 2 different contracts, okay, one is customer base, meaning that you work for an organization and this organization has customers. Okay? Meaning that you're working for ABC, but under ABC, you are responsible for every customer, okay, that ABC supports and you're assigned to. Alright, so the powers that be, okay, which will be your manager, he will assign you company DEF. Okay? Alright? DEF ships packages. That's all they do. Okay? But they have a network to communicate between all their hubs for moving packages or routing packages. Okay? And for resources to be shared between co-workers like VoIP. Okay? VoIP's not going to work unless you have a network between every site, right? So now they can communicate over a phone that uses a network to communicate with each other. All right, instead of using a POTS line. POTS, okay? Now, that means today you're working at DNF, tomorrow you're working with FGR, okay? All right? It's, you know, your day-to-day is different, or you could be using, or DNF has a huge network refresh, and your entire time is on that 40 hours a week, 24/7 for support, okay, until that project is done and until you release your engineering and your deployment over to them, all right, or after the deployment is done, they're still using your company that you work for as a means of support, meaning that any time it needs iOS updates or there's a problem, you're getting the phone call. Okay, you're assigned to that company. Now, it could be that you also, from this concept, you could be sitting at the customer site. You report there every day. You have a cubicle there. Okay, these guys, right? ABC pays you, but you are physically here at their location and you are treated as one of their employees. Meaning you got to follow their guidelines, their rules. Okay, you are not a physical employee, but technically you're an employee of here under this underlay. Okay, and these, whenever you have payroll issues, these are the people, ABC, you're going to talk to. If you have technical issues or doing changes or need to communicate with someone on getting access, it will be DEF that you deal with. Okay, all right. That's what I call a customer-based situation. Okay, now the next one would be internal. Okay, meaning that BBP, right, is a company that does government contracts. Okay, however, all right, you would never talk to anybody or interact with anybody, okay, outside of your BBP organization. You are a full-time employee of BBP, and every problem you fix on a network is BBP related. Okay? Meaning that every person that you talk to that has opened up a ticket is going to be a co-worker. Okay? Might not be someone that you know, but it's still going to be a co-worker. And everything you do is going to be internal. Okay? You are there to support BBP. Okay? Alright? Now, you would never talk to not one customer ever in your life in the lifetime of you being there. Okay? That means you are not going to be handling a different customer every day. You'll be handling internal stuff. Okay? And over a period of time, you're going to start getting used to that network environment. Where in the other one, okay, you get used to it, but you're not going to be working on it on a day-to-day basis only when they need your support. Okay? So you're going to be still learning that customer's network over a long period of time and never get to master it, unlike here working at BBP. Alright? So those are your two types. Now, to end this video, they are types of industries that we work with. Okay? Commercial. Very simple. Okay? Alright, you work for Blockbuster. Alright? Okay? Which I don't think they even exist anymore. But you work, let's say Walmart. You work for Walmart. Okay? Alright? Walmart does everything that Walmart wants to do, including their network. Okay? It's not governed by anything unless they're doing something like storing credit card information. Now that is a government standard or compliance that needs to be followed with that commercial entity. Okay? But with the commercial, okay, Walmart does things they want to, Kmart does the way they want to, Northrop Grumman does what they want to, Harris Corporation does what they want. You understand what I'm saying? Okay? Even though Harris and Northrop Grumman are government contracts, they do have compliances from the government how their network should work. Okay? But they could do things that conflicts with that, but then again, they go through government audits to make sure that they are compliant. Okay? But you consider them as government because of the contracts that they do, and I would consider that as government. Which government is a different industry than commercial. Sorry, coughing again. All right, just give me 1 second. Where's my mouse? Are you? Wow. Okay, so now another one that we have to worry about. Okay, we have commercial, we have government, financial. All right, financial is, how do I explain this? Any entity that deals with money, exchanging money, forwarding money, anything. That could be banks. It could even be the stock market. Okay? All right? They are, and that's what's funny. Even though it's government related with some of the compliances, okay, it's still not considered government because they're still commercial, privately owned entities. Okay, they just have government compliances that they have to, make sure, and they will get audited too. All right, that's what kind of makes it weird. But if you work for Capital One, okay, two things are going to happen. One, you're in the financial industry of IT and of networking. All right, the rules apply to financial than they do government. Okay, all right, and the last one will be medical. Okay, now I'm not saying there's not more than that. I'm just saying these are the four that you're going to be interacting with. Meaning that if you are not dealing with commercial, okay, and you only deal with government, all right, your processes and procedures you're going to be used to a different environment, okay, and not saying that this will happen, but it could happen. As a government contractor, okay, now again, this could be contracts or full-time employment. Things move differently. In a lot of cases, slower than in a commercial environment, meaning that your work habits as you move over to a commercial are going to be shocked, okay? And you might not even last long because you're so used to the time frame on the government, where commercial is a lot more fast paced, a lot more aggressive. They have clients, they have to get things done, okay? All right? In some cases, you're just doing what is called a break fix scenario, meaning that we don't have time for conference calls. We don't have time for documentation. We don't have time for change control from the concept where we're going to make changes on every Tuesday of every 2 weeks. Okay, that's government stuff. All right, this is commercial, and if you can't move at that pace, hit the ground running, immediately making changes, okay, you're not gonna last long. All right. If you come down from government to finance, this also goes from commercial to government. You come from commercial to government, okay, and not follow procedures, okay, the government's gonna let you go. All right. Okay, you're only allowed to do changes once every 2 weeks on a particular day. You decide, as a matter of fact, you didn't even follow proper change control. Okay, where's your documentation? Who approved this? Right? Where in a commercial environment, you are the person who makes the decisions and they're approving. All right, you don't have to go through those processes. Financial, there are compliances that you need to be compliant with. Okay, breaking those compliances, okay, means that when audit time comes, that financial company is going to be fined, okay, for being non-compliant. And boy, let me tell you, don't mess with a financial company's money, because you're not going to last long. Okay? Medical, you might find yourself being in court for something that you're not compliant with because you did not follow medical procedures. Not following medical procedures for compliances will, someone could get hurt, killed, or give the actual hospital a bad name. Okay? Alright? Dropping sales, messing up money, and now we gotta let people go, doctors, nurses, that you as an individual that's not even on that side, you're just a network guy, has caused all this drama, and now it's on the news, your name is mentioned. You see what I'm saying? Okay? Guys, these are worst case scenarios, okay? Alright, I've never been on the news, so, alright, and I have no plans to, change to do so, but you gotta understand that we're not being compliant from this perspective, like a medical perspective, okay, which would be the same for all of them. We're not being compliant because we don't want to be in the news. We are being compliant because we give a shit. We care about people's lives. We care about people's money. Okay? We care about people's secrets and information. Okay? And up here, we just care about customers. Does that make sense? Which they're all customers. But I'm saying, if you need to understand something, if you are a government guy, okay, you have closed, and that's it. That's all you've done. You have closed the doors to the financial and medical aspect and commercial, okay? Assuming that you can actually adapt for government commercial. Going from commercial to government adaptation, you might find yourself bored more than anything else because you're not always on fire. There's not always a fire to put out, okay? You're just, kind of getting nervous because you're like, if I don't do something soon, they're going to fire me. And that you're not really understanding that that's the way the government works, okay? You might find yourself sitting around most of the time. It's like, I'm bored as shit. Or you might even find out that your career is taking a hit because you're not learning because you're not doing, right? Because the government moves slowly. But if you have experience with each one of these industries, the doors that are open for you is a lot more. Okay? Alright? I did not pursue medical, but when I worked for the hospital, it's a whole different game with compliances. Okay? And I learned a lot from it. And now walking into a medical environment, I have that experience because the first thing they're going to ask you, have you ever worked for a financial company before? Have you ever worked in medical industry before? Because they are different. Okay? So now, checking all these boxes in my contracting career or consulting career, okay, all right, I have a broad availability to find work. Now, there is one market, okay, that your doors are going to always be closed to you until you have covered this aspect. Give me 1 second. And that will be cleared. Government clear. Oops. Come on. Clearance. Okay. Until you are until you are cleared by the government, okay? This market is completely closed to you, okay? Once in a while, you may find someone that will sponsor you for clearance, and clearances can only be done by sponsoring, meaning that the government doesn't pay for this. The entity pays for this. Okay? Now, you work for the military, you came out, you already got some type of clearance, okay, based on your military career or military influences, right? Okay, when I mean influences, I mean interactions. So now, you might have a secret clearance for doing a job that you did. Okay, that secret clearance can be rolled over. Okay, all right. But the thing is, as you were in the military, you were already cleared. So that means every job out there that requires a clearance, okay, you will have access to that job way before someone who is not cleared. Okay, the problem with being cleared is, okay, and we can blame companies all we want, but here's the reality of reality. Companies do shady stuff, yes, but so do people, okay? And most of the time, companies' cruddy, cruddy behaviors are responses to the cruddy stuff that people do to the company to try to get over, steal money, create lawsuits, so on and so on and so on. Okay, all right. And I'm not saying every company is innocent. It's just a concept that, okay, all right. I have literally seen rules and laws from a company perspective that is cruddy as hell, but literally know why those rules were created because of the cruddy crap customers and people do to that company for dumb crap just to make $100, just for whatever reason. Okay, suing companies for no reason. All right, this takes money out of employees' mouths and makes the company weaker. All right, now again, not justifying. All right, but when you're sitting when you're sitting parked on the side of the road in a parking spot with the meter on, okay, all right, you come back, you get in your car for after doing your shopping, and someone comes up, okay, and bumps you with your car. They back up into you. Now, from an insurance perspective, okay, as they're suing you for you hitting them, which wasn't the case, okay, but you didn't have a camera, you didn't have a witness, okay, so now the insurance company is just going to pay this guy off because it's cheaper to just give him $1,500, okay, all right, send him on his way than it is to do an investigation, going to court, and all that crap, and using you as a witness to the false claim, okay? And this guy, this person who does this, makes a living doing this for years, okay? He has not worked for years doing this over and over and over again with different insurance companies, okay, making claims, all right? This is fraud. But no one is spending the time to take care of this because they just want the problem to go away. It's easy just to give them $1,500. So this person has a means of income by fraud and gets away with it. Okay? That's cruddy. All right? That's really cruddy. Now, the results of that is now the insurance companies get a hold of this. They're getting tired of this. Something has to happen, especially when we're spending millions of dollars a year to fraud, okay, and doing nothing about it. So now it makes it even harder for the real people who have real claims to even be taken with truth. Okay? Dude, that's cruddy crap. Alright? And that's why they have to do cruddy rules and procedures to actually balance that income that's coming in. Alright? Guys, no one ever said life is fair. Okay? But here's the thing with clearances. You're working with a company, okay? And the company is starting to do government contracts and they need to be cleared. Okay? So the company spends $30,000 to get you cleared. Okay? Now, it takes 6 months. Okay? You actually got your clearance. And what do? You realize that you can make $20,000 more with a company right now. So you leave. So now that $30,000 that they spent on you, okay, what happens? It's gone. So they give it to the next person, hire someone, clear them. They do the same thing. Now, after a while, people get tired of this crap, and this becomes a normal thing. And now, no company wants to sponsor anybody for clearances. The bottom line is, if we're only looking for someone who's already cleared already, and we will take over that sponsorship. All right, but if you're not cleared, you are, we're not even worried about you. We're not going down that route, okay? Because all you're going to do is leave after you get your clearance and find about a job. So if you're not cleared, that market is closed to you, okay? Now, 10 years down later in a career, you happen to find a company that's willing to sponsor you, okay? That opens up new doors, all right? But this one is the hardest to obtain, okay? But, again, there's companies out there that will sponsor you, okay? And so on and so on, all right? Now, once this part is done, you have a whole new market, okay? Because here's the reality, all right? You can be a janitor, okay? That is cleared. All right? You have a secret clearance, or even top secret clearance, doesn't matter. Whatever job you were doing to get into when I worked for a particular contract, I had to go into a building, okay, to do my networking stuff because that's where the core switches were in. A government agency rented out that space where our switches was for our company, okay, and the only way to walk into that data center, okay, was to go through their government clearance and get a clearance for that government organization, okay? All right? Hey, it could be for FDA. Who knows? All right? The thing is, okay, you have to be cleared in order to walk into that building. Okay? Now, that's just to walk into the data center and do my work on my network that's in another building. Because that's where the core switches are. You would think that they would move them over to another building, but that's where the DMARC is. And no one ever decided to create a new DMARC for that building that I was working at. Okay? They would rather you just go through the clearance. Okay? And the only reason why it was set up that way was because they had space, they wanted extra income, and the government agency found it and decided to create a contract with them in order to rent that space. Okay? So, why do they care? As long as you cleared, you're able to do your job and we're all good. Alright? So, you could be a janitor, alright, and get promoted to a network engineer that has no knowledge whatsoever just because you're cleared. And I've seen it. And it's just weird. I mean, you're just like, who in their right mind would do that? And they will. Because you are cleared. You are now being promoted from a janitor to a network engineer, and you have no knowledge of networks whatsoever. Alright? But you're able to, but you are cleared. And the requirement for that job is to have a clearance. Alright? So now, as a janitor making $35,000 a year, you just now been promoted to $80K, $90K, even to $120K. Who knows? Okay? Alright? To be something that you have no skill set at. Just because you're cleared. So it does open up a whole new market for you. But understand that these industries are really big and they're serious. Okay? The chances of you getting a financial job, okay, at a high level, okay, or as a senior level without having financial experience is going to be kind of slim. Alright? From my experience anyway. I'm not saying it's not possible. Anything is possible. Okay? Anything is possible. Alright, I've seen someone that came from Africa, okay, only been here for 2 years and got a top secret clearance. Where I couldn't get a clearance for to save my life. Okay? Because no one would sponsor me. Alright, and he found a company that would sponsor him. And I mean, guys, he was in the country for less than 5 years. and got a top secret clearance. I'm like, what the hell? And increases income to like almost 200K a year. All right, yeah, it can be depressing, but it's not your career. So you focusing on that has nothing to do with anything. That's his thing. All right, you just keep on chucking. All right. So now, with all that being said, I really do like my tablet, my new drawing tablet. It's spacey because the last one I had was, well, the first one I had was a little bit even bigger, and I like that. But I love this size; it's a perfect size. And the previous one I had was really tiny. I really didn't like it. It was really, really, really tiny. I'm just like, and oh my god, it was like probably like $150. I'm like, why? Why is it so small? Okay, so I like the size. I like the feel of it. So I'm really glad I got it. Next thing that I'm going to be getting before we do our Spanish tree stuff is a PCI COM port. Okay, meaning that the COM ports are on a PCI card that has 4 COM ports on it. That means I'll be able to have 4 COM ports and be able to connect to all switches. Okay, not having to worry about telnet, none of that. And that is the next thing. I've already got it in my shopping cart. It's being saved. I have to wait till the next pay period to get that, which I'm still working on my finances to get me back to the way I was, so I can make some real changes in the things that I have to do. Yeah, because right now money is hurting me at the moment. Okay, but the problem that I was having with the income, I have resolved my point. I just have to wait until until it's fixed on the payroll side. Okay. With that being said, okay, I will see you guys on the next one. And be strong, be determined, be Cisco. Please comment if you liked this video, and maybe we'll have more like this. This is what I call a freestyle way of talking about technology. Whatever it comes to my head, I just talk about it. Okay? And if you don't think that I have 10,000 hours of conversation, you'd be sadly mistaken. You just don't know Connor Martin just yet. But you will learn. See you guys on the next